and something happens. Something significant happens. Changing towns, changing lives. Now, when I tend to do things in my life, I'm inclined to look to somebody who knows what they're doing, or somebody who's encountered something and been successful in it. I guess if I wanted to learn how to run a production line or build cars on a mass scale, Henry Ford would probably be a good person to talk to. If you wanted to learn something about social justice and equality, Martin Luther King is probably who I'd want to talk to. If I wanted to learn to eat, I'd talk to Cy. There's a few others, but he would take it without recourse. But we would like to learn from people who have done something beyond us that is in keeping with the Bible, in keeping with Christ's teaching, so that maybe we can learn from them. And what I'd like to share is a video here, and the woman who is talking is named Carol Wimber, and she was the husband of a pastor of one of the most significant church movements in the last 30 years. It was a Vineyard Christian Fellowship out in Los Angeles, and I've been preoccupied with this occurrence for the last 20 years. Here's a group of people gathering in a high school auditorium who had had this encounter with the Holy Spirit in 1979. And after this occurred on Mother's Day in 1979, in the next 90 days, 1,700 people were baptized. Now that's Book of Acts stuff. So in 90 days. So it gets the attention. And from that point, it's expanded to over 1,000 congregations worldwide. A good portion of the contemporary hymns we sing have come out of this movement. So I've shared something where she's talking about how this movement occurred and one of the things that they encountered that led to this particular revival. Here's
going to lunch once with an out-of-town guest, and this was after the Vineyard started, but it certainly describes how it started. I asked him, all excited, because I had heard about the revival in a certain part of Africa, and I knew he had been a part of it. So I was asking him questions, and how did the revival start? And he just stopped and looked at me, kind of like you're looking at me right now. He said it started with a mighty work of God. I said, oh, tell me about it. Tell me about it. And he paused, and he said he showed me my sin. And it was like, boom. Oh, that's revival. That's revival. And that was my experience. That was John's experience. That was just about everybody's experience as we formed a group. It was not based on anything else. What we had, we were not like the young, triumphant, successful Christians. We were the old, successful teachers and board members that had just burnt out. We were a bunch of broken people, and it was with the realization we missed something. In a personal part was when John was first filled with the Spirit 7 years before I'm talking about. For my sake, he walked away from the whole experience. And he knew Jesus was still Jesus, but he wasn't going to, get us kicked out of our little safe church. So there was, my experience was multiplied 100-fold as people would come in and they would see where they had blocked God, or if their experience of God became the norm or the standard, and there was no allowance for anything being different, and everyone had to line up and agree to all things, and it was heartbreaking.
He's telling me, the comment, he showed me my sin, is what leads to a revival. It's funny, again, out of this fellowship, I don't know if any of you have ever been to a Promise Keeper. Have you ever go to, remember Promise Keepers? That grew out of this congregation. A congregation that wanted to be near God and understanding that the getting near God is confronting and understanding our sin, which brings us to our text. What we see in our text this morning, I think, is basically this. What was explained. The woman at the well was shown her sin. When she said, he told me everything I did. Now, he may have told her about all the good things, but the text only tells us about a certain part of it. And you see, that's all that revival is. That's all it is. That's as complicated as it gets. He's shown me everything I've done. It's no more complex. It's not based on the preacher preaching. It's not based on the music or songs sung. It gets back to that, what I said a couple weeks ago, that intimate relationship with Jesus. You know, I mentioned a few weeks ago that question with Nicodemus about how do I get born again? He said you must be born of the Spirit and with water. And we talked about the spiritual birth requires a few things. And one of them is, as a natural birth, you must be of an age, and you must have an intimate relationship with a man or woman. So it is with Jesus. You must have an intimate relationship with him. Well, what we see in this text, this woman at the well, they got into it. Jesus got into her stuff. Or rather male, so to speak, if you're traveling in charismatic circles. You see, just as this woman is, we cannot be intimate with Jesus without confronting our sin. It just can't happen. It won't happen. We try to make it different. We try to formulate something, but what we find is, like Carol Wimmer said, we might get to a point like, I missed something. Where is this life? Where is this transformation supposed to be? Where is this love? Where is this, all these fruits? Where is it? Consequently, we'll find people that have these encounters where they're confronted with their sin, and something will happen. If we look at the text with the woman in verse 28, after she was confronted with her relationships,